They provide most of the labor on the bridge for us. And they send over all the fuel they've been making from their dead corn.
Sanctuary's barely holding on right now. We're obliged to help.
Why? They surrendered. We didn't kill them. That's it. I can't solve all their problems when I clearly have things to take care of here.
Why'd you bring us here?
Welcome to NocBro Nation. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Walking Dead season once again, and it is back.
Yes, it is. And we are here to review the season premiere of The Walking Dead, Season 9, Episode 1, A New Beginning.
A new beginning, and I wanted to let you guys know that I will be wearing this shirt for the
just wearing this
entire
one?
season. Yeah, I was wearing that one.
Until you saw that I wore it? Or were you wearing it all day?
I was just wearing it all day.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be wearing this for the entire season. This is the shirt that came in the Skybound Mega Box recently. Rick freaking Grimes.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
We had a very great season premiere. There were a lot of callbacks to the comics. We had a big death in this episode, which was exactly the way it happened in the comics, except for a couple things. Kind of a little twist in there, but either way, a great episode. It had my blood pumping.
Yeah.
In this whole thing. So
it was a really good episode. I will speak to the part of the death and give my thoughts as to why it happened in the season premiere. But let's start the overview.
Yeah, so I mean, we did a video on the opening 5 minutes. So
yeah, we saw a lot of the opening
saw
right away.
Pretty much the entire opening. You know, Rick and Michonne and Judith and I heard from somebody that deny when Judith said something, said about his tummy or whatever, the laugh that she did. I heard that was actually. They kept it in there because she laughed for real because of what she said. Yeah. So I thought that was really cute.
It makes sense too because it felt like a different tone from her on that laugh. It felt like the true Deny coming out, and I'm actually glad that they kept that because it was a great moment seeing that, and it was a great moment seeing just the whole advancement that the communities have made in this 1.5-year time skip. And I loved that. In the Talking Dead, they went over this, but everyone is feeling the aftermath of the war and the fact that Negan is no longer in power. And what was interesting about this episode is that even though his name wasn't even brought up other than it being on the wall, that cloud still hangs over every single person throughout this episode.
Still does. And after the opening minutes, the group is making a run. They're going into the DC and they're making a run for supplies.
Which we were wrong. We initially thought they were going into the run for that carriage. And it turns out that they were there for a purpose, and that was Jadis gave them the idea of a seed bank at the museum in case of a apocalypse.
And we got some more information about Anne, is that she was a teacher because she said she brought her class there. So in essence, they were going there, not specifically for the wagon,
other things
but
too.
they got the wagon, they got a farming hoe, I think is probably what it's
like
called.
A blacksmith tool.
A blacksmith tool. So they were searching for a lot of stuff, and this is where kind of the episode was like. I miss the old school, back in The Walking Dead where there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just they're moving through, creeping through different areas. They're kind of whispering and stuff like that. So the biggest part of this was, I guess, below, probably like on a floor beneath them, there was a glass floor and a ton of walkers are there. And they're thinking about, okay, if we have to bring this wagon down, which is heavy, and everything else they're bringing down, hopefully the stuff won't break. And I thought it was immediately going to break when there was a walker that fell right from the top, especially with other rock or
and one
part of the building kind of came with
one had fallen previously
already.
Because
that's how they get down.
But yeah,
it was cool.
It was really cool.
I thought it was good, and the episode got our hearts pumping when they were bringing the wagon down. The wagon has actual it's metal wheels basically. And they got that over. The glass started to crack. It actually did But what they were doing is they were tying ropes to each other, knowing.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
They were knowing that if that breaks, at least they have a rope tied to them and they can get to him. Ezekiel falls through. I was not worried at all. I was like, he is not going to die.
They made it suspenseful. I did love the point where like one was about to bite him and Daryl shot it with his bow. That was pretty badass.
That's the only scary thing. You're dangling. The walkers are trying to get you. And if your leg gets there, they can just be like, take a chunk out of you. But he got out. It was showing like as they were pulling up because it's broken glass, the rope was starting to break. They had the
all just to add suspense.
They had the wherewithal to throw a blanket down so he could, just the stuff that you have to think about in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
When you're in danger. Yeah. No, I thought the run was really cool. Pretty quick. It wasn't too long in DC, but the rest of this episode takes place in the sanctuary and the hilltop. They kind of are starting to get back on the road, and they see that a bridge has pretty much collapsed they say a herd has come across it, and they said they've damaged a number of bridges actually in the area.
It's hard to believe though that a herd can do that.
Well, we know who's leading the herd, don't we?
Yeah, but I mean, just from a weight standpoint, I mean, those bridges are built obviously for vehicles, weighing, multiple tons.
It would take decades for a bridge to really decay that much.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But
but it was interesting. It was just to show us, that they still have that route to other communities, and we got more information on this. Is that there's route A, B, C, D. They have different routes to the communities, and furthermore, they have spray painted the signs to signify those routes. But again, we spoke about this on a previous video, is they're branching out, they're expanding, and they're building their society, their communities. So much so that they have lookouts for walkers. We saw Jerry passing Daryl at one point, giving him an update, of recent walkers, or path is clear, go ahead.
Right, the rally.
While on the road back from DC, our group runs into some walkers.
We run into some walkers, and I don't know if it was before or afterwards, we did get a proposal. We did get Care Ezekiel. A little quick proposal. He's just, and Carol, I kind of understood why she didn't immediately do it. She wants to be with somebody. She wants to be in love, but the thought of marriage, I think for her right now is like, no, not right now. But we'll talk about it later, Zeke. And he's like, I'll hold on to this when you are ready.
Yeah.
But they do run into walkers. I think they're also, the wagon is kind of stuck in mud and they can't get the horses to pull it, so they're going to push it through, and they're trying to move a very heavy wagon. Walkers are getting closer, and we have our first death.
Like that much, really.
It wasn't. It wasn't a lot, but because of the situation they're in,
when Rick tells them, Michonne, Daryl, go take care of it. Honestly, it looked like Daryl and Michonne probably could have just went to all of them and took them all out right away. There was probably about a good 15 of them. But it was the fact that they came from the other side as well.
That was,
And it was a ninja walker, because we get that all the time, hiding in the street.
Yep. You can't hear them. You can't hear them or walking.
That got one of our D-list actors that we were just introduced to, which you knew was going to happen.
Yes, so his name is Ken, and he this is an actual character from the comics. We won't go too deep into the comic section though, but he does die in the comics, but not from a traditional walker. But he goes back trying to free a horse. He gets bit on the arm. And now I thought when they were trying to save him, I thought did they cut his arm off?
Cut his arm off.
I thought they maybe already did, but maybe he was bleeding out too much. I don't know.
Yeah, he gets bit, and it's like he passes out but awakens, and I thought that was going to be to them cutting because they cut his arm. So yeah, I honestly thought that they were going to have his arm cut off as well, because just the way that he came out or awoke from getting bit, but his death was pretty quick.
It was pretty quick. They were trying to keep him to stay awake, but
he must have bit some type of artery, because he was bleeding a lot.
He was. And what was interesting, though, is before he left, he says, now, I didn't think, because of the differences in the comics, his mom and dad is Tammy and Earl. That is not the way it is in the comics. So when he mentioned about mom and dad, I'll see you soon, kind of like, I thought maybe he was, his parents were already dead, and he's like, I'm coming home, basically. So I thought that was interesting of how they had to say that line.
That was a sweet scene. It obviously affects Maggie a lot. That is a fellow hilltopper, if that's the term that
hilltopper.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it affects Maggie in more ways than one. But even before we get to the other ways that it affects Maggie, just right there in the moment, it hurt her to see one of her own die.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, we saw a lot of people very emotional. Enid was emotional, but she was, because I didn't know the character. I was like, she is.
Yeah, none of us did. We knew that he was from the hilltop.
Right, but she was like literally bawling.
Yeah.
Like,
because, I mean, literally right before that scene, he was talking about, being an apprentice for the blacksmith, that he put shoes on the horses, but he wanted to learn more about, being a blacksmith. Right. So we knew he was from the hilltop, but
So it was pretty sad. This is where things start to get a little interesting. So we get to the sanctuary. Rick and crew get to the sanctuary. They're bringing the supplies back to him. You probably saw it a couple of the beginning of our videos. Rick is vastly admired by a lot of people at the sanctuary.
That's awesome. It was
Rick
awesome.
Grimes is here.
Yeah, he's the one that changed things, or he's the one that won the war.
Yeah, end of the war. And
this is a train wreck. All right, ready?
Yeah. So they get to the sanctuary, and Laura Eugene kind of gives an update to Daryl. He doesn't want to hear it right now. Laura kind of says, "Hey, you need to speak to them." And Daryl, this is kind of, we get the mention of Negan, where Daryl's like, "I'm not going to stand up there and talk to them like he did."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not going to do that."
Again, that just goes back to my statement of, without saying his name, it is just looming over everyone.
Yeah.
It was nice to see Laura actually, be a friend to Daryl and kind of entrust Daryl with running the sanctuary. Like, she didn't have to go to him.
Right.
In one previous scene to tell him about the walker that they were hanging up to get the crows away from their crops. Yeah. And she didn't have to ask him, "Hey, do you want to give a speech?" Right. She does, and that was just cool to see.
It was pretty good. And the first time we do see Negan's name is when Michonne is looking at the walls. She asks Daryl if this is a common thing, and it says "Saviors save us" or something like that.
We're still here, Negan, save us, or something like that.
Saviors save us, we're still Negan. Daryl kind of says, we're seeing it more and more that the crops are failing. And we kind of get to see some interesting interaction. He asks one of the sanctuary people to cover that up, to fix it. And the guy was reluctant, like, "How do you want me to do it?"
We're out of pain.
Daryl's like, "Well, figure it out then." Like, So you kind of see that there's some that are still on board. There's other, like a Laura, and there's others that quite aren't.
Yeah.
Quite aren't
that are not.
Right. And this was a really good interaction. So we get to see the interaction with him and Rick, and this is where we finally hear kind of from Daryl that, things aren't going well here. Nothing grows here. He says he does not want to lead the sanctuary anymore because it's full of saviors and it's just not working here.
Taking a little bit of the comic book story of Dwight, who in the comics ran the Saviors after the war and chose that he wasn't a little bit different. Daryl doesn't necessarily feel that Daryl just doesn't want to be there.
No, he doesn't.
It's not that he can't lead. He just doesn't want to be there.
He wants to be
comics. Dwight didn't think he was a good enough leader.
Daryl, as he told Rick, he wants to be out on the road. He did mention that, he kind of goes back, calling back all the group that we had in the beginning. We were small. That's what I remember. That's what I know.
But what else did he say about that small group?
He said we could do anything.
Bullshit.
I told him earlier, he's like, no, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They were small. Well,
you can't do near what you can do now with several different communities.
I think he's more talking about because they were small and because of how they were able to kind of navigate around and do things in a kind of a smaller degree, that he felt more safe with that. And because he was always they were always together. Now that they're split up, Rick is going back to Alexandria, Maggie's at Hilltop, and he even says, I don't get to see everybody that much anymore.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
So Daryl says he's going back to the Hilltop to see Maggie, and Rick's like, if you're gonna leave here, somebody needs to take your place, but I can use the help back home. Mm-hmm. And Daryl's just like, it's Rick's kind of like, things have changed, and this is where he says, and we thought it was a positive thing.
We thought it was
a
compliment.
A compliment. No, he's like, you changed them, Rick, and he's like, but I get it. Daryl is he's very sad that they're not together. Rick and him, they could do a lot together, and he misses that. He misses being on the road. And he just misses that camaraderie.
And he also did mention, look, it's kind of hard for him to be here. This dude was like fed shit sandwiches and like locked up in this place. So that's another thing, And it was cool that he's like running his own motorcycle shop there, which we find out that why they're still able to have fuel. We'll get to that later.
Well, and the other
biggest, he actually mentions it talking to Rick.
Yeah, so they've tried to get a bunch of fuel for miles. They're using the dead corn to make ethanol, to make fuel. He's like, that's not going to run the cars and trucks anymore.
That was the process that I believe Eugene was doing in the shot as they come in
with Rosita
dumping the corn out. So they are able to at least make some type of fuel, but how long can they sustain that is essentially what Daryl is telling Rick. We've gone out as far as we can. We've scavenged what we can scavenge. The seeds will help.
Yeah, the seeds will help. And so the last thing that he kind of references about Negan is he feels that we're kind of doing the same thing. All the communities are giving their supplies to the sanctuary. But Rick makes a difference. This time, it's the communities are willingly giving these supplies and helping you out. It wasn't, it's not like Negan forcefully taking it. But he's kind of drawing that similarity again. He's like, look, this place is not doing well. It's full of saviors. And who knows how the other communities feel about providing to the saviors, even though the war's over. Most of them are on board, but most of them aren't.
It was a great point, actually.
It was a really good point. And it comes up even later. It comes up with Maggie back at the hilltop. Tammy and Earl, who are the mother and father of Ken, who died, very upset with Maggie. They feel that their son...
Well, they lost their son.
They lost their son, one. They feel that he should have never been out there, and we're providing all of these supplies and giving it to the saviors. And they say the word saviors. They don't recognize them as just people doing good deeds now without Negan. They still consider them as
Are they the ones that reference they lost the war?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're pretty much saying, look, they lost the war. Like, why are we helping them?
Right. And you see a point to it, but it's also like, look, I mean...
I see more of Daryl's point.
Yeah. Their point is like, we shouldn't be helping them at all. They should just die.
Yeah.
Which is not good at all. Maggie, she's very sad about this.
They won't even let her go to the funeral.
They won't let her come to the funeral.
We also find out during all of this that there was an election at the hilltop, and that it was actually an idea of Gregory to hold an election between him and Maggie. And what do you know? Maggie won. Now, it seems on the surface that Gregory is okay with that, and that he's willing, that it changed him into a better person. Because here he is at the funeral, he's speaking that, the Hilltoppers people mean something to him.
A very good speech.
Yeah, and
even Jesus said, very beautiful.
Yeah.
But I knew there was more to that.
But yeah, I mean, you could see that, and he even tells Maggie, look, like that election, I'm not holding anything against you. It was the right thing to do, and it changed me. It changed the way that I think. No.
He fully takes on his comic book character.
Yeah.
In the comics, he's pretty much the same way. He tries to devise a plan to dethrone Maggie.
Yep.
And he starts with the grieving parents, the grieving father, who is a recovering alcoholic. And Gregory comes in with a bottle, starts giving him drinks, and starts laying out his eye,
talking into his ear, basically telling him, "Look, we know why." Here's what he said: "We know why Maggie's in power. We know why she's able to keep that power, and that's because of Rick."
Yeah. Well, think about who all the votes for. Like, they're all her people. They're all Rick's people,
which is not true.
So of course she rigged it, right?
Yeah. And he continues to say to the father, look, I care about the Hilltop people. I don't think Maggie does.
Right. He's feeding the anger and the grief right into the father. Plus, on top of it, getting him drunk.
Yeah.
To help him do that.
And let's quickly finish up the rest of the episode, the rest of the kind of the factors around the episode, and then we'll come back to this moment. But what else did we get? We get a nice moment between Rick and Michonne in bed. basically, this is where Michonne's saying is we need to develop some rules that tell people how the communities work together and furthermore how they treat each other and what happens to the communities or people that don't follow those rules. And we thought we didn't know that she was talking to Rick, but apparently she is.
The trailers like to make us think that they're, the two were talking to each other.
And it's cool because it's not just Rick that is building this new beginning. It's Michonne as well. And she's giving him shit for, basically being the famous Rick Grimes.
Yeah, he's just, he's not seeing it that way. But, he talks about that would be a good idea with the communities. He kind of also says the kingdom isn't doing that well either. They said of a loss from their soldiers, which we know from what happened at the All-Out War. But, what else do we get? Is that pretty much...
That's pretty... Well, there is the dealing of... Rick and crew find out on their way back to the communities, this happened before, that the bridge did go out. Finally, the bridge collapsed. They've lost their route to Alexandria. So one of the solution was, let's regroup, let's go back to the hilltop and the sanctuary, and let's regroup, and basically we need to come up with a charter to rebuild this bridge. We need to get the communities together and come up with a charter to rebuild.
So Rick and Michonne go to the hilltop, and Rick has a nice moment holding baby Herschel. And this is where we get the conversation where Maggie opens up, and she's kind of like, look, Rick wants to develop a charter to help build, and he's like, I need people. I need your people. I need to help with your supplies to give to the sanctuary. But Maggie's like, I'll do that, but I need something in return. And she's like, I want the sanctuary people to do the majority of the building, and I want their fuel. So she's basically saying, look, I've sat down and followed your lead. And she says, I remember when you told me that after this war, I would be somebody that you would follow. And she's like, at that time, I wasn't there yet. But now things change. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, now it's time for you to follow me. And this is what I want.
And you could see that this is already going to be causing a problem here, because now it's going to shift from, well, we're providing to the sanctuary, we're helping the sanctuary, here's all the sanctuary that are in love with Rick Grimes, and now, in my opinion, it's going to completely flip, maybe not towards Rick, but it's going to have the sanctuary now thinking that they are slaves to the rest of the community because they have to build this bridge. It's going to cause nothing but problems.
And I think that's coming down in other episodes where we see that conflict. That's probably where it starts.
Now, we do get Carol offering up her services to take over for the sanctuary in Daryl's place.
For now.
We get a nice goodbye between, the king and Carol. Not a goodbye, but, I have to help out my friends.
I got to help out. I have to do this for them. And it was just really interesting of how, Rick is kind of, he's kind of... You kind of see it in his face. He kind of understands Maggie, but like we said, there's still going to be tension there between those two. So then we get into the end. Is
that it?
I think that's pretty much it.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, we might be, but that's all right. So pretty much the end of this episode is Maggie is out for a stroll, pushing Herschel in the grass with, a stroller.
This was a brutal scene.
It was brutal. Gregory is out there, just walking around. He's kind of saying, kind of a tough day today, blah, blah, blah.
This is where he tells her that he's changed. But towards the end of the conversation, he proceeds to tell Maggie, I think someone defiled Glenn's grave. And, don't worry about it. Take care of it in the morning. It might have just been somebody walking around stumbling, but
kids or something.
And she's concerned and she is distraught. Obviously, it's Glenn's grave. So she immediately goes to Glenn's grave and while starting to make her way to it, gets jumped by a hooded figure, a hooded man, spilling over the carriage, Herschel onto the ground. He's screaming and crying.
She's fighting this guy.
Or
this person in the hood. And Enid comes and tries to help. She gets hit back and hits her head, gets knocked out on some stone bench or something. And then, a couple other guys come in and, help Sadiq and I keep forgetting his name. the one guy could be taking Dante's kind of spot. It's whatever. But they capture the guy, and actually turns out,
gosh, that's gonna bother me now.
I know. It's turned out to be Earl. So Earl, in his drunken state, tried to attack her, but
dang it, that is gonna bother me. He was singing at the funeral, and it was actually a really good song.
Yeah.
At the funeral. Anyway.
Yeah. So Gregory, Maggie immediately knows who did this. It was Gregory, and she says to him, "You couldn't come and kill me on your own.
You don't even know how to murder someone."
Yeah, you don't even know how to murder somebody. And that was sweet
because when she said that, I'm like, "Oh shit, she's about to murder him."
Oh yeah.
It starts with an E. Why am I thinking of an E? That character's name. That is going to bother me. Anyway,
it's going to be.
So obviously, there's going to be repercussions of this. While Maggie is talking to Gregory, Gregory actually pulls a knife on her and attempts to murder her.
Yeah. Bad mistake. And
yeah.
She takes him down easily. And that's when we get to the true end of this episode, which is the execution of Gregory.
Yeah, and they make it seem like it's actually possibly the execution of Earl and his wife, because you don't see Gregory, but you just see Earl standing in basically like a whipped dog, being disciplined, him and his wife there, and then they pan to Gregory on a horse with a noose around his neck, and Maggie proceeds to turn around to her people and said, "I didn't want to do this, but there has to be something done."
The punishment fits the crime.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to do it, and she asks if he has any last words. He's just kind of pleading, "Don't do this, don't do this." Rick and Michonne are there. They're watching. But this is the part I love. So right when she tells Daryl, because he's sitting on a horse with the noose around his neck, they're just going to hit the horse to say go, and he goes. And right when he's about to do it, Michonne turns around. There's two kids that woke up that came to look. Michonne starts yelling at Maggie like she was going to go run to have her stop. Rick grabs her and is like, no. And I think he did that because this is her show.
Yeah.
This is her town. I am not going to interfere with this.
And rightfully so. I think he made the right decision there, because he's essentially saying, look, I have to get this bridge built. And if it means abiding by her rules in her community, because it is her community, I'll do so. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? I mean, Gregory dies.
Yep.
And that's how we end the episode.
That's how we end it. I don't think that she's not going to do anything with Earl. I think that, she knows that Gregory was a mastermind. They probably figured out that he was drunk out of his mind, so he may not even remember it. So yeah, I thought it was a really great episode. It was really good.
It was a really good episode. Now, what I did want to bring up that I wanted to talk about in regards to the whole Gregory death thing is, I honestly thought before this episode that they were going to drag this storyline out. I thought that this would be at least a few episodes of Gregory kind of talking in the ears of different community members of the Hilltop, and it would take a couple episodes to get to this. Now, in hindsight, having seen the episode, it felt kind of rushed, but I think the reason why is because we don't have Maggie for too many episodes.
Right.
So they had to get that storyline in right away. And what a perfect way to do it in season 1, or in episode 1.
Alden.
Yeah.
Alden.
Because you need some type of shock and awe in the first episode.
I probably wouldn't have liked if they would have dragged it out. It's completely different in the comics. The comics, Gregory tries to poison Maggie, and it does, take a little while for that to happen. But I kind of liked it that they did it pretty quickly, because they wouldn't have been able to do it kind of dragging up a couple episodes. It would have gotten kind of annoying.
But it does make sense with her only being in a few episodes this season that they would do it right away.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I thought it was great.
That was big. And I knew it was eventually going to be coming. It was like
no more elections now. Dictator Maggie.
Yeah. Dictator Maggie. Yeah, we'll see how this pans out. But an amazing episode, guys. Let us know your thoughts, and definitely leave us your questions for our Q&A for our predictions video that we'll do on. We'll be recording on Thursday, so we'll try something new, see how it works. If not, we'll just head back to our normal routine of the prediction video. So leave us your questions for episode 2 or questions for episode 1 that you guys have, and we'll do a little Q&A session for our predictions.
I think it's called Proposal.
The next one?
Or no?
No, not the next one.
I know that is one.
Yeah.
Or no, that was the code for the rewards.
That was the code. Yeah. No, I can't remember the episode, the name of the next one, but we'll figure that out here in a minute.
Yep.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you always be notified when we're uploading videos. Just follow us at NocBro Nation on Twitter and Facebook, and stay tuned for our predictions video for the next episode. We'll see you soon. We're NocBro Nation.
We're out.